All right, I would appreciate the opportunity to come back and be able to share with the individuals here at Alabama One. I want to take a moment and appreciate Bill Wells. I want to appreciate Miss Jackie for the opportunity to be able to come and share. I'm here to talk to you today really about creating lasting change, the enduring change that I believe is necessary if we're going to be able to function in this post-COVID environment. Really here to talk about sound governance as well, which kind of deals with the method and the opportunity that we provide to our individuals as leaders, the personnel that we really kind of supervise and oversee. We need to have sound governance when we're doing that. And so I want to kind of take a few moments and share with you my ideas, my thoughts that I think will help be a blessing. Now, I'm a preacher at the same time as a public speaker. So if I get into a little preaching mode and you hear a few amens, don't let it bother you. It's designed to kind of help with our dialogue as well. But I want to really appreciate Alabama One for their bridge builders concept and that ideology. I was so moved by it last year when I was here that when I went back home, I'm from Georgia, went back to Georgia, I met with our banker there who we kind of share with from our church. And I sat down with him and explained to him where I had just come from and the ideology that they had at Alabama One, because I really believed in the concept of bridge building, of the faith community coming together with the education community and coming together with kind of corporate America. I thought it was a great idea that we build bridges with one another and share with one another. So what I want to share today kind of ties in with governance as it pertains to each aspect of our faith-based community, as well as our education community, as well as our corporate community. So I really want to talk today about change in relation to sound governance in this post-COVID environment. I think most of us will agree that when COVID came on the scene earlier this year, it came and it left everyone with a message. And that message basically is that business, as usual, is no longer acceptable, that we're not going to be able to do business like we once did in times past. So all of us have to adjust to the way we do business. Business in corporate America, business in our faith-based community, as well as business even in our homes. All of those aspects of life are really kind of ran like a business. And so it's incredibly important for us to be able to adjust to and provide governance or sound methods of leadership in these various areas of our lives. And so for me, when it comes down to sound governance, it really deals with leadership. And I'm kind of big on leadership. So for me, when we look at leadership, we need in this particular period in time of our lives, literally, is leaders who have two things. Leaders who literally have vision and motivation. Vision and motivation. Vision is not just a function of the eyes. It's not just a function of sight. But when I speak of vision, I'm speaking of vision as having the ability to foresee what is taking place and being able to then adjust to those measures that are really coming at you. We need visionary leaders. Visionary leaders. Matter of fact, there's a scripture that kind of comes to mind in Proverbs. The wise man Solomon says in the 29th chapter in the 18th verse that where there is no vision, foresight, the people will perish. That word perish literally means they will cast off restraint. So what Solomon is really saying to us is when there comes a time and individuals who particularly are in charge, if there is no vision from that person, then the people who they're leading kind of cast off restraint, cast off hope, because they're looking to leadership to provide direction. And we need visionary leaders. We need visionary leaders who understand that not only must I have vision, but I must be able to also articulate that vision. So it's one thing to have vision, it's another thing to be able to articulate that vision, particularly to the various persons that are a part of your organization. So for me, when COVID hit, as a pastor, I had to gather together our leadership team. I had to provide a vision for them on how we were going to still do ministry and be able to function in this post-COVID environment. And I'm sure one of the things I've really enjoyed here at this particular conference is listening to Bill and listening to Jackie and listening to Martin and looking at the team. And I could tell way ahead that this team already has had vision, that clearly Bill is a man of vision, Jackie is a person of vision, and they were able to articulate that vision to the group of people who were here. And this is why we had our Bridge Builders Conference today, because someone had the vision and were able to articulate the vision so that the individuals who would impact, we would have the opportunity to be able to say, okay, we know that we can move forward and our business will be successful. So it's wonderful to be able to have visionary leaders, be attached to those visionary leaders, because they're able to articulate the vision and then pass it on to those individuals whose lives they're going to impact. And I've discovered I'm married, and my wife, I thought I was the visionary leader in the house, but come to discover she's probably a little bit more of the visionary leader than me. And so she kind of set a vision for our home, because our home operates in many cases like a vision, like a business. And so she told me there are certain things that are going to have to change, because where I see this going is not going to go away overnight. So our home, which again is like a business, we have to learn how to function in this particular environment. And so for all of us, it has impacted our lives in a way where we have to adjust and make those changes. So when it comes to corporate America, when it comes to literally the faith-based community and the other areas that are bridging together, there's three things that I want to suggest and leave with you that I think will help as we continue to function in this particular environment. Because for me, I see sound governance as the various methods by which corporations provide oversight and control to their different companies that are a part of their institution. So it becomes, again, important for visionary leaders to have that vision, have the vision, be able to articulate it so that they can provide oversight and control to the various parts of their institution. And again, that can be in the faith-based community, that can be in the corporate America, and it also can just be right there in our homes. The three things that I'd like for you to consider is, if we're going to provide that sound governance, there has to be a plan for the people. There has to be a plan that you have for the people that are a part of your organization. And again, it's been wonderful to observe and see here that clearly there's been a plan for the people who are a part of Alabama One. When I speak of a plan for the people, it is clearly not only the people that work directly with Alabama One, but with our shareholders, creditors, auditors, all of those that make up the family. There has to be a plan. For me, it's the congregants. There had to be a plan that I had for the people who are a part of the church that I'm just blessed to serve. I realized that if they were going to return to in-house church functions in our faith-based community, then leaders had to have a plan in place that showed that we care actually for the people. Not only must there be a plan, and I'll talk more in depth about each one of these, not only must there be a plan for the people, but there has to be a plan for maintaining productivity. That's what business is really all about. So I've got to have a plan that shows that I have care and concern for people. I've got to have a plan that shows I have the vision for maintaining productivity. And then finally, there's got to be a plan that shows that the leadership has the right idea of setting priorities. So let me talk real briefly more in depth about people, productivity, and then priorities. It has to be a plan for the people, because the people are the primary instruments that make the business function. So in this post-COVID environment, I think we all understand that business is not going to be as usual. I've got to create, if I'm a leader, I've got to create an environment that shows the people that I care about them, that I care about their safety, that I care about creating an environment that they can come to work in and feel safe. And if it needs to be done virtually, that I can come up with a vision that provides an opportunity for them to maintain the wealth that they need for their families, but they also are my primary concern. So as a leader in the faith-based community, I had to come up with a plan that says, listen, I'm going to provide an opportunity for you to still be able to participate in worship, But I want you to know, should you come back to the place of worship, we're going to create a safe environment. We're going to create an environment where masks are going to be worn, safe social distancing is practiced. Now, throughout the church building, you'll find that there are places where you can wash your hands. All of that says to the congregants that this leader is concerned about my safety. I think every leader across the board, again, particularly in our corporate America, when I walk in and I see individuals have masks, when I walk in and see that there is a concern that the CEO has for the business in terms of the people, that he's created an environment that people can feel safe in. I think all of us realize that COVID, it had more than the impact in terms of it affecting or making people sick. Literally, it's created an environment where people feel unsafe when they leave their homes. So if I'm coming to the job and I know that I'm potentially putting my life on the line, then I want to be in an environment where I know that my boss has created the kind of environment where I feel safe and I feel secure. It's going to help me as an individual who's a part of that corporation to be able to be more productive in the things that it is that I'm being asked to do. It's going to help if my boss understands that perhaps maybe I can work from home. Can I work from home and still be productive? If I can work from home and still be productive, then the bottom line is still being met. And the boss cares enough to make sure that I don't have to come in an environment, particularly if I already have a condition in my life that prevents me from being able to feel even more safe. So let's think about the people. It's going to be important that if you are a leader, again, you have a plan for the people. And if that plan includes making changes that are going to have to be lasting in terms of, you know what, this may be a long-term opportunity for people to work at home. Might be the way we do business has to change when we come into the workplace, because I really am concerned about the health and welfare of the people. And so we've got to be concerned and have a plan for the people. Again, I have to compliment Alabama One in seeing and observing and knowing that what they're doing, they're concerned about. We heard about financial wellness, but they're also concerned about the personal wellness of the persons that are a part of the organization as well. And they deserve appreciation, a level of appreciation and gratitude for being concerned about not just productivity, but about the people as well. So we have to be concerned about the people and have a plan. There must also be a plan for your productivity. Sound governance says if I'm going to be in control and I've got to come up with methods to make sure we can still be productive. We can still be efficient. We can still have an output. We can still do business. That takes visionary leadership. That takes someone who can, again, articulate that vision. So what is being done? How do we decide will productivity be accomplished? Is there a plan in place where we can still meet the bottom line? We can still do business, but still be concerned about the health and welfare of our people. So great leadership still puts in place the opportunities for productivity to be maintained while still saying to those individuals that are a part of our leadership teams and a part of our business teams that we are concerned. One of the things that I wanted to make sure that our church kept in mind was that COVID did not catch God by surprise, that it really didn't catch him by surprise. So if he knew that something like this, a pandemic, which kind of leads into a level of understanding in terms of persecution, because persecution was also something that the early church had to go through as well. So there's always been in God's mindset that something like this could happen. So I was sitting there thinking, how can the church still be productive in the midst of this pandemic? Because for me, again, church is a business. How can we be productive and still meet our quote unquote bottom line, which is making sure that families were still being taken care of, which is making sure that ministry was still going forth. I had to come up with a plan that says, you know what, I want to make sure we can still do this. So I had to assign separate leadership teams who were responsible for providing oversight to the various members of the body. That helped them to realize that we do care about what's going on, and we do not, until they return to the physical church building, we do not want to put you in harm's way in any capacity. but something had to be done so that we could make sure that ministry was still being provided. I think the same thing happens for an Alabama One or any other corporation or faith-based community where productivity still must take place. And in order for that to happen, again, it's got to have great leadership who can look down the road and be able to come up with a method and a way to make sure that these kinds of things take place. And I know that that has to come from tough decisions. Tough decisions are going to have to be made if productivity is going to take place. So I'm sure that there were times when, in order for me to maintain productivity and still meet the bottom line and still make sure that we take care of our people, there may have been some times when people had to be furloughed. There had to be times when people may have, we may have to let go of some people. All of those are tough decisions that leaders have to look down the road and make during these difficult times. And so in this post-COVID environment, there's going to be tough decisions and tough times that leaders have to make. And so we're all working together in our community. Again, I was sharing with Bill when I went back to Georgia and I shared with our banker this idea of bridge building. Just before COVID hit, we were ready to implement the similar plan that you all are doing here, which I think is great. But I realized then that if that's going to take place, it is going to cost great sacrifice many of times of everybody that's involved. And so great leaders, strong leaders have to provide that leadership when it comes down to making sure that we are still productive in making sure we meet our bottom line. So let's have a plan for the people. Let's have a plan for the productivity. And then finally, your priorities. There's got to be a plan for the priorities that you have as a business. I think every leader understands that there are certain priorities that have to supersede other things. That's what makes them the priority. So we've got to identify what are the most important aspects of the business. What are the most important aspects of the business? What is it that we cannot do without? That has to be one of the priorities. What is it that we cannot do without? And as a leader, had to be very integral with the people, pull them together and share with them your ideas, your thoughts that will help you to realize, even though we have to make these tough decisions, we have to maintain our priorities. And I'm sure that has to do a lot with your mission statement, your vision statement on how we still can accomplish these things during a difficult time such as this pandemic. This pandemic has presented challenging times for all of us, and it's going to require us to all pull together to make sure that we take care of all of the people that we have underneath our charge, all of the productivity rather that we have to make sure takes place, and then setting the priorities. Finally, I just want to kind of leave with you what I call identifying the VAs, identifying those valuable assets that are oftentimes not just property, but they are people. Identifying the people who you know as a leader helps to make your business function. Identify those people, pull them even closer to you as it pertains to your decision making, because I realize that I cannot actually oversee a group of people by myself. So I had to pull in my valuable assets, sit down with them, articulate my vision with them, and help them. They helped me to set the priorities for how ministry was going to continue to be done. And I think that happens throughout the board as it pertains to corporate America, faith-based community, all of those areas that have been hit because of this COVID, because of this pandemic that really has come upon all of us. And so when we think about it, let us pull together and let us realize that this is not over in terms of the pandemic or COVID itself, but it's not over because we're still learning, we're still growing, we're still adapting to the situation. And I think great leadership will make sure those three areas are taken care of. And in doing that, it will help to make sure that we're staying in line with what we've been brought into business to do. And again, I want to appreciate Alabama One for this opportunity to be able to come and to share and to learn. I've learned a lot. Going to take this idea again back with me to Georgia. And again, I want to say appreciate Mr. Bill Wells and to Jackie as well. Thank you all, and appreciate you so much for what you've done. Thank you.